What is going on, everyone? Welcome to Conspiracy Corner Podcast. This is Abe, your host. I don't have Lammy Chillmeister, my co-host, sadly. I took her out of the car when I went on a break. I had to go on a break. That is why I'm back. You're probably like, where the hell have you been? Have I got a shit ton to say to you? Today's not really going to be a conspiracy episode. I'm just going to be explaining what I've been doing, where I've been, what's been going on in my life. This might be a two-parter. I'm not sure yet. We shall see. So, I'll try to keep it as short as possible because I do have to go to work in 45 minutes. So, it might be a two-parter. This year and the ending of last year has been fucking hell, dude. So I don't work at Kroger anymore. Obviously, I'm wearing a uniform now. I work at Clark's Pump and Shop. Let me just start with last year. You guys, if you remember, if you keep up with the channel, I lost my apartment last year to Barrel Creek Rental Properties. It's Barrel Creek is the company's name. We got bought out and they doubled the rent from like $550 a month to $1,000 a month. I can't afford that shit. You know, even at the time working at Kroger, I was making $14.25 an hour. I was literally getting miserable at Kroger. And by the way, little side note, if I seem a little rusty today, it's because I ain't podcasted in literally months. So little side note though, so that's a disclaimer. If it feels like I can't get back in my groove immediately, that's what it is. Witch's Read, I believe they call it. Do you ever notice in life that misfortune always comes in threes? And I'm not sure how I believe on the whole karma thing, because there's a part of me being raised Christian of like, life gets rough and tumble, and that's God testing us. There's a part of me that believes that and wants to believe that. And there's a part of me too that wonders if it's karma or like Witch's Read, which is basically everything comes threefold. Because I've noticed with misfortune, it happens in threes. With a death in the family, if one person dies, two more follow. It's just something I've noticed throughout the years. So I had that happen of like losing my apartment at the end of last year and moving in with my mother-in-law. Now, that was no big deal. I was like, okay, I can deal with that. Because when I was working at Kroger, I was a workaholic. I was working 6 days a week, 3 doubles a week. I was stacking chips. I'm not going to tell you how much money I had in the bank because, no offense, that's none of your business. But let's just say we weren't rich, but we were doing fucking good. So we moved into my mother-in-law's, and I had been miserable at Kroger's for a while. I was making $14.25 an hour, and they had put out a sign basically saying new hires we're now hiring. They're making $14.25 an hour. They kept adding more work, and expecting it all to get done. There'd be nights when we would have like a huge ass truck and they would literally have like 3 employees trying to stock the entire fucking store. And they would literally get mad at us like, why didn't you all get it all done? It's like, we had 3 people. What the fuck are you talking about, dude? So the workload kept increasing. They kept coming up with new systems like spotting all the items instead of working it off pallets. So half the night you would spot all the items, and then you got like 3 hours to stock it all, you know? And they want it conditioned. They were just never happy. It was never good enough. So I technically quit Kroger. So this story gets crazy. So this was October or November, right before my fucking vacation, by the way, which I did get paid for. So that was cool. They at least paid me for my vacation. We had a boss. His name was Gus. And everyone at Kroger, everyone is very right-wing conservative. Most everyone there working there. Like, if you were a classic liberal like me, like you were outnumbered, dude. I think, yeah, I mean, you just were. Like, everyone had like this whole like Donald Trump, right-wing, red-blooded, mindset, which I do believe it's the lesser of two evils, but I believe it's two wings of the same bird, That being said, let's see, we had a boss. His name is Gus. I wish I knew his last name because I'd put him on blast, and I don't give a fuck. This guy is a piece of fucking shit. This guy was an outright communist. He was literally a communist and was proud of it. I had talked about him previously on my channel, like about him, talking to him about like the Trump assassination attempt and shit. So this character has come up in my lore before. And everyone, all my coworkers were like, oh, fuck Gus, he's a communist. And they'd always talk shit about him. Gus actually, back in the day, I actually liked Gus, and Gus liked me. But like, and he was one of those managers that would actually get shit done. Like, if you came up to him with a problem, he would immediately go, okay, come with me. And he would go to the office, get on the computer, be writing stuff down. He would immediately, in 2 seconds, be like, come with me. We'll settle this now. None of the other fucking managers did that shit at Kroger. This is Kroger on Nicholasville, Brennan Crossing too. And I don't give a fuck. Normally, you guys know me. I'm pretty fucking cool, and I'm saying, hey, don't bother this person. Don't fuck with this person. I don't give a fuck. Nicholasville, Brennan Crossing, Kentucky, Kroger. If you guys want to give it fucking 1-star reviews, please do. That place fucking blows. Anyways, yeah, fuck that place, dude. So I liked Gus, and I would always stand up for Gus whenever any coworkers were talking shit about him being a communist. I would say, I don't care if he's a communist. He's the only manager here that is actually worth a damn. Which Miss Watts used to be fucking cool. She fucking sucks dick now, too. Fuck Miss Watts. She's a fucking idiot. I think it's Diane Watts. She's a fucking moron. And I'll tell you why in a second. I'm coming in guns a-blazing, ain't I? But, anyways, so the last night that I walked out, the last night that I worked at Kroger, it was right before Joe Rogan was interviewing Donald Trump. I didn't know that this was going on. Now, Gus, being a communist, this got his panties in a bunch, and he was butthurt. Because he wants to see America fall under communism rule, and he wants Kamala Harris to win because she's a communist. He's in a bad mood. So we're in the middle of like doing what they call Peyton, which is breaking. Basically, we drag out huge pallets from the truck, and we set up littler pallets around it, and we break down the huge pallet into smaller pallets that are pulled by hand jacks. And the reason why you do that, it actually makes sense, is because you break down the biggest pallet, which is all mixed goods, and each pallet that is on the floor is represented into different departments of the store. So you'd put like juice and soda in one section. You'd put chips and popcorn in one section. You'd put dog food all in one pallet. Like, taking a huge one and dividing it up into smaller, into their sections. So it makes it easier to spot, makes it easier to stock. Okay, so we're in the middle of doing Peyton, and we get called to the office. Gus is working. And I was like, Gus is working? And here's the crazy thing. I'll get to it in a second. So we go to the office, and Gus is in a pissed off fucking mood. And he's like, I need to talk to you all. These pallets aren't getting done. And by the way, another reason why the pallets hadn't been getting done that whole week was because they were literally doing a floor remodel of like stripping all the gunk off the floor and then polishing it. And they were blocking off sections, aisles of the store, so we couldn't stock those items. And then by the time they were done, it would be like 6 o'clock in the morning. We clock out at 7, and they'd be like, get it done. And it's like, we're not going to get it all done in an hour. Like, common sense shit. So he basically was bitching to us throughout this meeting. And he was cussing up a storm. Cussing does not bother me. I cuss like a sailor. You know, I have conversations with friends and shit. Like, I have 2 friends who, they're both Christian. But, like, they both apologize all the time, like, for, like, oh, I'm sorry I cussed. Because they'll say fuck or shit. And I kind of laugh to myself because it's like, dude, I cuss like a sailor. I don't apologize. I don't give a fuck. I say whatever the fuck I want to fucking say, dude. They actually say that it's therapeutic to cuss, and they say anyone who actually does cuss, they're actually more intelligent. Like, they say highly intelligent people cuss a lot. Just saying. That's what the studies say. That being said, so the cussing didn't bother me, but he was saying some crazy shit. Like, he wasn't even scheduled that night. And he came in. He wasn't even asked to be there. He wasn't even scheduled. He literally just came in under his own fruition. He was drunk. His eyes were glossy. He was slurring his words, cussing like a sailor. He was drunk. And his face was like beet red and shit. Like, he was drunk. And he's like, don't you guys think I want to be home next to some wet pussy right now? But instead I have to come in here and, you know, deal with this shit. That was like, I was like, okay, that's over the line. Now you're bringing up like sex, like talking about wet pussy and you want to get your dick wet and shit like that. That gets into an HR type of realm. So I could have got him on that. Because you're bringing up sex shit. Like, that's sexual harassment. I don't want to hear about your fat fucking communist wife and her nasty ass wet cunt that smells like rotten fish. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to hear that shit. Hang on just a second. Sorry, I had to move a little closer. It's getting closer to me to go in. So he says all that crazy shit. And they had taken away our headphone privileges. Probably like 3 or 4, I'd say about 4, maybe 5 months before that. So it was miserable. We had to literally just sit there and listen to whatever music they played over the intercom. It fucking sucked because, and honestly, it was kind of hurting my channel because where this is a conspiracy channel, I'd work an 8-hour shift and I'd pop in my headphones and I'd get to listen to like 7 hours worth of conspiracy podcasts. This is where I was getting all my fucking news, all my info on what's actually really going on with the world. And yeah, the channel started going downhill. And I literally got to the point before I took my break, I was like, dude, I don't really know what to report on. I'm gonna end up running out of shit to report on because I'm not getting my daily feed of conspiracy, dude. So during not the interview, the fucking meeting, Gus is like, because what had happened was Ryan, my conspiracy theorist buddy who I worked with, he was like, hey man, can we have our headphones back, you know? And so he brought that up during the meeting, and he's like, you guys want your fucking headphones back? Okay, that's fine, but you guys got to get these trucks done, blah blah blah. So we got our headphones back. We got ass chewing, whatever. That didn't bother me. And finally the meeting was over, you know. And Gus, by the way, he ended the meeting perfect. If he would have just ended on that sweet note, I'd still be working at Kroger right now. He ended it on a sweet note. He called each of us out, and he's like, hey man, I love you guys. Abe, you do awesome, blah blah blah, you do awesome. Oh, he did bring up something that did get under my skin a little bit. Something else was, he's like, Abe, I love you too, man, even though you're licking your lips at old women in the parking lot. So if you guys go back further in the podcast, I used to podcast in the parking lot before work because I'm an insomniac and I don't sleep much. I was at work and eating a McChicken. And by the way, if you ever eat a McChicken, they put on way too much mayonnaise, dude. So I'm sitting there eating a McChicken, and like it's getting all over my lips and shit. White shit's getting all over my lips. You clip that. And I'm just eating, and like I'm watching YouTube on my phone, but I'm listening. Like I'm just eating, and I don't know about you, but when I eat, like I like to look around and people watch. I look over and there's this old woman putting her groceries in the car, and I'm finished eating, and I go like this and lick the mayonnaise off my lip, but I happen to be looking at her. She goes in and makes a complaint. Hey, there's a weird guy in a white car out there. He was looking at me and he was licking my lips, and he put a tracking device on my car. I'm scared he put a tracking device on my car. So this right there, that tells you this bitch is crazy. And you guys know me, man. I'm not like the most tech savvy dude. I'm really not. My wife, the only reason this podcast functions and my channels function is because of my wife. She's the tech savvy one. I don't even know where the fuck I could get a tracking device. I mean, can you buy them on Amazon? Are they even worth a damn? Like, can the average person actually get a decent tracking device? I'm asking you because I don't fucking know. It's crazy talk. So they're like, oh, this chick's batshit. But he brought that up during the meeting, and I explained it to him, you know. And it just kind of pissed me off, you know, because it's like, dude, that shit aggravates me because I'm not a fucking creep. And first off, like, if it's the one I was thinking of, it was some old, saggy, white fucking old woman. Like, you know, I'm not bashing old women because I ain't gonna lie, there's a couple old women who I've seen who are smoking hot gray foxes. Not gonna lie. And the older I get, the more I don't mind older women. But like, this was like a nasty ass old fucking hag. It's like, bitch, I wouldn't fuck you with a cucumber, you know? Like, no, you're nasty. And it just kind of pissed me off because it's like, dude, this is my reputation. This is my job. And you're bringing up that I'm like a pervert, which I'm not. And you're like, no, dude. So dick move by Gus on that one. Fuck that dude. Fuck Diane Watts too. She fucking blows. I don't care. I'm guns a-blazing. I don't work there anymore. I'll never work there again. Fuck that Kroger. Brennan Crossing, Kroger, Nicholasville, Kentucky. Leave a horrible review. So he left. He ended the meeting on a good note. This is where he fucks up. So we're leaving, and I go up to Ryan and I give him like a little side hug. I'm like, dude, fucking awesome. You got our headphones back. I was actually happy, dude. I was ready to fucking work again. I'm like, great, I can listen to Tinfoil Hat, you know, podcast again. Like, and I had so much catching up to do. I'm like, fuck yeah, dude. I got a shit ton I can listen to now. So we go back to doing Peyton. And he comes in and he starts dragging pallets out from the back room. And he is literally screaming at the top of his lungs, "Hurry the fuck up, boys, so you can listen to Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan wants you to hurry the fuck up." So I'm looking at my coworkers, I'm like, first of all, I don't even listen to Joe Rogan. Like, way back in the day, Joe Rogan got me into the concept of podcasting. I'm talking way back in the day when podcasting first came out. Death Squad Radio. They even literally called themselves Death Squad Radio because they didn't have a name for podcast yet. They kind of invented podcasting. Whether you like Joe Rogan or not, podcasting would not be around without Joe Rogan. He was the pioneer. So I do like Joe Rogan, but I just don't listen to his podcast because most of the guests that he has on there are like retards that I don't want to fucking listen to. That, and I like conspiracy podcasts, you know? That's why I listen to Tinfoil Hat. In my opinion, Tinfoil Hat, greatest podcast on the face of the earth. Better than Joe Rogan. Last podcast on the left would probably be number 2. So, oh yeah, so he's came out of the back room and he's screaming at the top of his lungs, "Joe Rogan wants you to work faster." And I look at my coworker, I'm like, dude, I don't even fucking listen to Joe Rogan. Like, what is he talking about? I was like, none of us listen to Joe Rogan. I said, I listen to Joe Rogan like once in a blue moon, like when he has Duncan Trussell on there, or like a really cool guest that I want to listen to, which is very rare, you know, like he had Woody Harrelson on there the other day. I want to listen to that one. But like, yeah, I don't fucking listen. No one listens to Joe Rogan here. Half of the employees, like I said, are like red-blooded conservatives. They think Joe Rogan's too liberal, you know, which I think is hilarious considering he literally supported Donald Trump towards the end and voted for him, you know. I didn't know at the time that Joe Rogan was going to interview Donald Trump. So it had either come out that day or it was the day before and he had announced he's going to interview him, something, but Gus knew and I didn't know. And that's why he was drunk and pissed off. Because he's a communist. So he literally screamed at us like 2 or 3 times and was like, "Hurry the fuck up. Come on, hurry the fuck up. Joe Rogan wants you to go faster." He just kept screaming this. Like, he did it 3 times. And by the 3rd time, I looked at, and I was getting madder and madder and madder. And even my coworkers were looking at me like they'd never seen me this mad. And I started thinking evil thoughts. We have this metal pipe that is stuck in the ground. It's a barrier, and you can literally pull it out. I started getting evil thoughts like, I could just pull this out and like sneak behind a shelf and just, when he comes around the corner, just bonk his fucking skull in. Because I told you guys, man, I got anger issues. I've been to BIP. I've been to jail 3 times. I'm all about fucking someone up. I come from a criminal family, the Williams family. We were pretty much kind of like Irish mafia of fucking Waterville, Michigan. I come from a violent group of people. I got Blackfoot in my blood. I got Irish in my blood. We don't fuck around. We don't go looking for fights. But if someone wants to fight, we're brutal motherfuckers. And the thing is, we don't fight fair. We don't believe in the whole fisticuff shit. We'll find a rock. We'll find a metal pipe. We'll stick you with a knife. We're dirty. We're nasty motherfuckers. We'll sneak up on you. We'll be like, "Oh, I don't want to fight. I don't want to fight. I'm sorry. You know, we'll play like the victim, like the heel in wrestling. Like, please don't. I'm sorry. And then when you're not looking, we'll just come up behind you and just bonk you over the fucking head and curb stomp you while you're passed out. Like, we're fucked up individuals. We fight dirty. Like, my dad taught me basically go for the testicles and try to rip out an eyeball if you're ever in a fight. That's how we play, dude. There is no such thing as fair fighting. Unless it's like wrestling or boxing or UFC. So, that being said, I started getting violent thoughts, and I'm like, dude, I can't go back to jail. So I just looked at my coworkers. I said, I'm going home. And they're like, okay. They already knew. They're like, oh, Abe's not going to put up with this shit. I said, I'll catch y'all later. And I ain't going to lie. Have you ever seen the movie 1408? He keeps a cigarette. He stopped smoking, and he keeps a cigarette. One cigarette, and he always keeps it behind his ear for when the day the apocalypse is coming. I have what I call a survival shot. You guys know me. I'm a friend of Bill. I struggle with alcohol and shit. And I have a survival shot that I keep in my car. And I keep one at the house too, in case the apocalypse ever hit. That way I can just have one more shot. That way if the nuclear bombs are dropping, I can have one shot and a cigarette before we die. Or the sun explodes. That's the concept. I call it a survival shot. Because if I'm going to die, kind of like Wolf of Wall Street, I don't want to die sober. Yeah. When they're on the boat, get the cocaine. Yeah, I don't want to die sober, you know. I have a survival shot. So I went outside and I was like, fuck this shit. So I took my survival shot and just sat there and smoked a cigarette. And I told my wife, because I don't drink and drive, I've already had a DUI. I told my wife, she lives right up the road. I said, come pick me up. I just walked out. She's like, are you fucking kidding me? And I started bawling. I started crying because when I get mad, and I don't care, y'all can make fun of me in the comment section, whatever. I don't care. I'm being vulnerable. When I get super fucking mad, I start crying. And that's when, honestly, I know it sounds crazy, but that's when you need to get the fuck away from me, because it's not like a, oh, woe is me tears. It is an angry cry of like, I will murder you, you know? And I just started crying. I said, I will explain it all when I get here, when you get here. So she came and picked me up, and I just explained everything that was going on that night. And I just got drunk. I got drunk, and I get a text message the next morning. I went up to the store the next morning. I woke up bright and early. It was pretty much at the beginning of the shift, so I got drunk and just had a full night's sleep. I got up, ass crack of dawn, went up there about 7 a.m. because I knew the managers would be there. And I went up there and spoke to Diane Watts, Mrs. Watts. And like I said, I don't give a fuck. If you guys want to give horrible reviews or report her, go for it, dude. I don't care anymore. She's a nasty motherfucker. So she used to be a real cool fucking person, dude. When I first got hired there, like, she was showing me pictures of her little chihuahuas, and she was always super nice to me, always super fucking cool. Until this day, when she was standing up for her little scumbag buddies. Managers stick together, you know. When I worked at McDonald's, it was like managers wore blue shirts, crew and crew trainers wore red. We always used to call it Bloods versus Crips, you know, because they all stick together and we all stick together. It's actually kind of sad that businesses have to run like that, but, you know, it is what it is. So I go up there and I just explain to her what's going on. And she's like, I was telling her, I was like, dude, he was cussing us out and cussing up a storm. And she said, I said, y'all can't do that. And she said, yeah, we can. I said, no, you can't. I said, I'm fucking union. And it says in the union handbook, you are not allowed to like cuss out employees. And she said, yeah, we can. So I started cussing during this interaction. I'm like, well, if you can cuss, I can cuss. So I started cussing, and she's like, you don't talk to me that way. I said, why? You can cuss. Why can't I? You know, you're allowed to. Well, you're not allowed to. I'm off the clock. First of all, I'm off the clock, bitch. I can say whatever the fuck I want. And I kept it pretty short, and I told her, you need to tell him to chill the fuck out. She said, you don't need to tell me what to do. I said, well, someone needs to tell him to chill the fuck out. And I said, you can tell him I said that. He needs to chill the fuck out. And during this meeting, too, when I went in there, Gus was already sitting in the office with the big boss. His name is Jason. He's cool. So don't fuck with Jason. Jason's cool. He looked over at me. He was in the chair and I could see him in the doorway, and he looked over at me and smiled and then just leaned back in his chair and shut the door. I'm gonna leave it on a cliffhanger. There will be a part 2, just because I have to get going into work. This story gets better, it gets crazier. But this is, I'm coming back, so I'm leaving it on a cliffhanger. Hopefully this was entertaining. I'll tell you what happened with the rest of this meeting. But I got to get going to work, and I hit the 30-minute mark anyway, so there will be a part 2. I love y'all. Thanks for tuning in. I'm glad to be back. I just needed a break, and I'll tell you why. Please tune in for part 2.